the goal isn't to blame our parents or anyone that was involved in our upbringing or to be stuck in pain. The goal is to understand ourselves better and to be able to deal with our emotions. We are back again with an exciting topic, childhood trauma, how it represents itself in adults. I'm Ms Jamillah Ndagire, a holistic health coach, and with me I have Ms Jamillah Ndagire, a mental health nurse. And yeah, how are you doing?
I'm alright, I'm glad to be here. Thank you for hosting me.
You're welcome. Yeah, so like we said, today we are talking about how childhood traumas come back in adulthood. First of all, I want to ask, what is childhood trauma?
So childhood trauma is past experiences, like distressing experiences, harmful experiences that happened during childhood. Yeah. And then these experiences, people don't overcome them. So in adulthood, they impact on their mental health.
Yeah. When we talk of experiences, is it only the physical or it's also to do with the emotional?
Yeah, it's to do with emotional, childhood trauma can be emotional neglect, it can be criticism, it can be sexual abuse, Yeah, so all these experiences can impact on someone if they're not resolved.
So like you've heard, yeah, we have a lot to talk about. So if you haven't subscribed yet, make sure you subscribe. You'll hit that plus button and let's dig into this shortly. Sometimes trauma is not only what happened to you, it can be what you didn't receive. Let's talk about people pleasing. Why do most adults find it hard to say no? Even when they are exhausted, they keep pushing and going.
Yeah, so some adults, because they face trauma in their past, in their childhood, so they like to please others, to get validation and reassurance from others. They fear, neglect or abandonment, so they like to please others to be accepted. So which can be overwhelming and exhausting because you can't keep on pleasing others, you have to set boundaries,
Let's look at hyper-independence, yeah? Being independent is good, yeah? But some adults overdo it, yeah? Why is it also a sign of childhood trauma? Can it be a sign?
Yes, somehow it can be a sign. It can be, hyper-independence can be disguised as strength, So people, if they've been through trauma, they can fear relying on others. They want to be portrayed as being independent, and they fear to be vulnerable, So they prefer, doing things themselves, but
Yeah.
it can be exhausting, and they don't trust.
Yeah.
They don't trust others.
Actually, some adults they can't receive care because they fear to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they fear to
But
be.
it's good to be taken care of sometimes. Yeah,
Yeah, because of lack of trust of others. So
because of the things they've been through.
Yeah, they fear to be exploited, and sometimes we cannot be independent all the time. Sometimes we need to rely on others.
Yeah.
So sometimes people, when they've gone through trauma, they see this as a coping skill, and they try to avoid, past experiences happening to them.
Yeah. So independence is okay, but sometimes delegate and enjoy to be taken care of. Yeah, it can be overwhelming sometimes. So asking for help is not such a bad thing. Emotional dysregulation, how can it represent as childhood trauma in adulthood?
This can portray as, the way people present themselves, like in situations of containing, anger management, yeah? So when people cannot regulate their emotions, sometimes they can be explosive, they cannot manage in overwhelming situations or conflicts. They can react very angry, and then they can show behaviors like self-harm behaviors, or they can disengage from people, self-isolate. So all these things, they reflect childhood trauma.
Okay. And then when we look at if someone, something has happened to them, and then they just, they don't disclose, like they keep it to themselves. Is it like numbing?
Yeah. So sometimes people, if they face trauma in the past, they find it difficult to express their feelings and thoughts, But if you can express your thoughts and feelings and share with someone that you trust, this can help to regulate your emotions. You share, if you're sad, you share with someone. You don't have to keep everything to yourself, And that's when people act impulsively and engage in risk behaviors.
But sometimes you can find someone who is emotionally unavailable, and that can really be, it's not a comfortable thing. Let me say, like, you have a problem and you are crying and someone is like, no, why are you crying?
It's good to surround ourselves with people who care for us, But, sometimes it's difficult, But, you can adapt to good coping strategies, if you're sad, you can listen to music, you can read a book, you can share with someone on a phone, it doesn't have to be someone within your reach, within your environment.
Like, you don't have to impose anyone to be emotionally available for you. If someone is emotionally absent, you can find comfort in other people. You don't have to impose
even other things that make you happy, It's good to write down, things that make us happy. You can engage in activities if you want to distract yourself, and avoid being impulsive. We have to learn how to regulate, our emotions in a healthy way.
Yeah, so our viewers, if you have any tactics or any skills of how we can cope with such things like emotions, please feel free to advise in the comment section. The goal isn't to blame our parents or anyone that was involved in our upbringing or to be stuck in pain. The goal is to understand ourselves better and to be able to deal with our emotions in a good way. Ms Jamillah, how can we heal from these traumas?
So to heal from these traumas, we have to be resilient, and avoid ruminating on our past experiences. Because if we keep ruminating on this traumatic experience, we get stuck. So we need to learn how to come out of it, to adapt good coping strategies. So we need to seek support, like psychological therapies, and we also have to be self-aware, to know ourselves, to know our strength, our weaknesses, to know how to manage our emotions, to know how to cope with, you know, our bad feelings. You know, if you have bad thoughts, learn how to, you know, engage in good coping skills. You know, you can engage in mindfulness, listen to music, you can, you know, go surround yourself with healthy support groups, you know, share your experiences. You can learn from others. You can also learn from other people's experiences.
Journaling is also actually good.
Yeah.
And prayer. Prayer.
Yeah, also prayer is good for some people. You know, there are a lot of, you know, good coping strategies than adapting to maladaptive coping strategies. These are bad, engaging in bad behaviors, you know. People who have gone through trauma, they tend to engage in bad behaviors like use of substances, alcohol, drugs, also self-harming.
So, what advice do you give to parents? If you are parenting right now, this is your time to open those ears so that you can learn from the trauma that you experienced in the past. That is, if you experienced any, so that it doesn't get to your children.
Yeah. So, you know, parents, they have to be free with their children, you know, encourage children to open up, you know, to open up how they feel. They have to share their feelings and their thoughts, like, you know, our culture, you know, like when I was growing up, you know, children were not allowed to answer back, you know. So even if the parent is the one who's in wrong or any adult, you know, the child will just keep quiet. They cannot express their feelings and say, I'm sad, or this is not right, what you're doing, you know. So to encourage the children to express how they feel, you know, it builds also their confidence and self-esteem.
If you've been here from the beginning up to the end, we are so glad to have you. And the takeaway is that understanding your patterns is not a weakness. It's the beginning of healing. So make sure you observe yourself and do better. Ms Jamillah, it's been a pleasure having you here.
Thank you.
Do you have any closing remarks?
Yes. So I encourage people to seek mental health support and to surround themselves with people who motivate them, who empower them, and to adapt with good coping skills. You know, when you're struggling with your mental health, seek support. Support is out there, and also to be self-aware, you know, of your emotions and feelings, and learn how to cope, you know, in a healthy way. You can write down things, you know, that support you when you're struggling with your mental health. Yeah, you can also, you know, do some research. There are a lot of resources out there, you know. Yeah, that's all. Thank you so much.
So thank you so much. If this topic resonated with you, please support us by commenting, liking, subscribing, and sharing. See you next time. Bye.